Lorraine Ripley's hands froze mid-pour as three black SUVs rolled up outside Millie's diner like a funeral procession. She'd never seen vehicles that expensive on Camden Street. Not in the 6 years she'd worked here. Not in the 24 years she'd lived in this forgotten corner of the city where potholes never got filled and dreams came to die quietly. The coffee overflowed. Burned her thumb. She didn't notice. Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Now, where were we? Oh, right, the moment everything changed. The diner's bell chimed. Wrong. It didn't chime, it announced. Like even the brass knew something important was happening. The man who entered wore a suit that cost more than Lorraine made in a year. Maybe two. Sharp jaw, sharper eyes, and the kind of cold handsomeness that came from never hearing the word no. Behind him, three people in matching dark suits. Lawyers had to be, carrying briefcases and the energy of people about to ruin someone's life. They scanned the diner with obvious disgust. Cracked vinyl booths. Flickering fluorescent lights. The smell of decades-old grease that no amount of cleaning could erase. Then those cold eyes landed on table 7. On Alfred Miyagi. The old man looked up from his oatmeal. The one Lorraine had quietly marked as paid on the register, even though he'd stopped being able to afford breakfast 3 weeks ago. His weathered face went pale. The spoon trembled in his spotted hands. Grandfather, the suit said. Not warmly. Like an accusation. Lorraine's heart stopped. Grandfather? Alfred had told her he had no family. That everyone was gone. That she was the only person who... Sebastian. Alfred's voice came out small. Defeated. Nothing like the man who'd spent yesterday afternoon telling her stories about building radios during the war, eyes bright with memory. Sebastian Corleone crossed the diner in 4 strides. Lorraine noticed, everyone noticed. Her co-worker Denise, the morning regulars, even old Mr. Patterson stopped mid-bite of his hash browns. We need to talk. Now. Sebastian's voice could freeze hell. About your living situation. Your finances. And his gaze cut to Lorraine like a blade. About who's been taking advantage of you. The briefcases clicked open in perfect synchronization. And Lorraine realized with growing horror that somehow, impossibly, she'd just become the villain in a story she didn't understand. 3 months earlier, Lorraine had been wiping down table 7 when Alfred first shuffled in. She'd noticed the tremor in his hands immediately. The way his jacket hung loose on his frame like he'd recently lost weight. The careful way he counted coins for a cup of coffee, lips moving silently, eyes apologetic. She'd seen that look before, on her grandmother's face, right before the dementia took her completely. Right before the bills swallowed everything and Lorraine had to drop out of community college to work double shifts just to keep the lights on in their apartment. So when Alfred came up 17 cents short, she'd done what her grandmother would have wanted. Senior discount, she'd said, waving away his protests. New policy. There was no senior discount. But there was a girl who remembered what dignity looked like when you couldn't afford it. Now, watching Sebastian's lawyers spread documents across the table like a prosecutor building a case, Lorraine felt her carefully constructed world tilting sideways. Miss, one of the lawyers, a woman with ice-chip eyes, consulted her tablet. Ripley, is it? Lorraine Ripley. That's me. Her voice came out steady. Years of dealing with drunk truckers and handsy businessmen had taught her how to hide fear. How long have you known Alfred Miyagi? 3 months. Maybe 4. She wiped her hands on her apron, a nervous habit. He's a regular. Sweet man. Always polite. And how much money has he given you in that time? The question landed like a slap. Given me? Lorraine's spine straightened. I don't know what you think is happening here, but grandfather's bank records show weekly cash withdrawals. Sebastian interrupted, still standing, still radiating that terrifying corporate energy. $200. Every Friday. For the past 12 weeks. Lorraine's mouth went dry. The timing coincides exactly with when you began working the morning shift. Sebastian stepped closer. He smelled like expensive cologne and old money. So, I'll ask you directly, how much has my grandfather paid you? And for what services? The way he said services made her skin crawl. I never took a dime from him, Lorraine said, voice shaking now with anger instead of fear. Not one. I gave him breakfast when he couldn't afford it. I walked him home when it rained because he doesn't have an umbrella. I read him a newspaper because his eyes are going bad and he's too proud to wear his glasses in public. Lorraine. Alfred's voice, soft and pained. You don't have to. No. She looked at the old man, this person who'd become something like family in a life that had very little of it. I'm not letting them make me into something I'm not. Sebastian's jaw tightened. Then where's the money going? I don't know. Lorraine spread her hands helplessly. He never mentioned money. We just talked. He told me about his wife, Dorothy. About their garden. About. My grandmother's name was Dorothy. Something flickered in Sebastian's eyes. Not warmth exactly, but maybe the first crack in the ice. Behind the counter, Denise, 50-something, sharp-tongued, built like she could bounce a biker, and had slammed down a coffee pot hard enough to make everyone jump. You want to interrogate my girl? You better order something, she announced. This ain't a courthouse. It's a diner. And in my diner, you pay for the privilege of breathing our air. One of the lawyers actually flinched. Alfred looked up at Lorraine. His roomy eyes held something she couldn't read. Apology? Warning? Or something else entirely? There are things, he said quietly, that I should have told you. And Lorraine felt the ground shift beneath her feet once more. Sebastian pulled out a chair without asking, sat down across from his grandfather with the confidence of a man who owned every room he entered. You want to know what I think? He didn't wait for an answer. I think you've been giving money to this waitress out of confusion. Loneliness. Maybe early-stage dementia. My mind is fine, Alfred said sharply. The tremor in his hands contradicted him. Then explain why you're living in a walk-up apartment with broken heating when you have a trust fund worth. Sebastian caught himself, glanced at Lorraine. When you have resources. Lorraine's head spun. Trust fund. You don't know. Sebastian's laugh was bitter. Of course you don't. He's been playing poor. I'm not playing anything. Alfred's voice gained strength. I'm living the life I choose. One of the lawyers cleared his throat. Mr. Corleone, perhaps we should discuss the Miyagi Industries situation in private. Miyagi Industries? Lorraine couldn't stop herself. As in, the tech company? The one that makes everything in your smartphone. Half the components in every computer manufactured in the last 30 years. Sebastian's eyes never left his grandfather. Founded by Alfred Miyagi in 1972. Sold to a consortium in 2010 for enough. Alfred slammed his palm on the table. The old man who could barely hold a spoon suddenly looked like someone who'd commanded boardrooms. This is not her burden to carry. But it was too late. Lorraine's mind raced through every interaction, every free breakfast, every walk home. Had he been testing her? Was this all some sick game rich people played? The care facility is ready, Sebastian continued, sliding a glossy brochure across the table. Private suite, 24-hour medical staff. You'll be safe, properly looked after. I don't want, and I'm having your accounts frozen. For your protection. Sebastian finally looked at Lorraine. No offense, but until we verify that there's been no financial exploitation, no one gets access to his money. I don't want his money. Lorraine's voice cracked. They all say that. The casual cruelty of it stole her breath. Alfred reached across the table, his spotted hand covering hers. The gesture was gentle, familiar. It made her eyes sting. Lorraine, he said quietly, I need you to trust me a little longer. Can you do that? She should walk away. This was clearly family business, billionaire drama, nothing to do with a girl who made $9 an hour plus tips. But she looked into those kind eyes, the same eyes that had lit up when she'd brought him apple pie, when she'd remembered he liked his coffee with 2 sugars, when she'd simply seen him as a person instead of an inconvenience. Yeah, she whispered. I trust you. Sebastian's expression darkened, and one of the lawyers pulled out a document that would change everything. Mr. Miyagi, the woman said carefully, about the modified will you had us draw up last week. The color drained from Sebastian's face. You did what? Sebastian's voice could have shattered glass. Alfred met his grandson's fury with calm. I modified my personal estate, not the family trust, not the business holdings, my personal assets, to leave them to a waitress you've known for 3 months? The diner had gone completely silent. Even the cook had stopped flipping eggs. Lorraine stood frozen, her mind refusing to process the words. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to girls like her. She's earned it, Alfred said simply. She's conned you. Sebastian shot to his feet. This is textbook elder exploitation. Any judge will. Will what? Alfred's eyes flashed with steel. I built a billion-dollar company from nothing. Negotiated with governments. Survived 3 recessions and a hostile takeover attempt. You think I can't recognize kindness when I see it? The lead lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Corleone, we do need to verify your grandfather's mental competency before. I'll take any test you want, Alfred interrupted. Any evaluation. I know exactly what I'm doing. Sebastian turned to Lorraine. Really looked at her for the first time. She felt his gaze catalog everything. Her worn sneakers, the frayed hem of her uniform, the exhaustion she couldn't quite hide. How much, he asked. How much what? How much did he promise you? Because I'll double it. Right now. To walk away. The offer hung in the air like poison. Lorraine thought about her student loans. The medical bills from her grandmother's final months. The leaky ceiling in her apartment that her landlord refused to fix. She thought about what that money could mean. Freedom, security, maybe even a chance to go back to school. She thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Away from here. Sebastian blinked. Apparently, no one had said that to him in a long time. I didn't ask for anything, Lorraine continued, voice shaking but strong. I gave him breakfast because he was hungry. I walked him home because the neighborhood isn't safe after dark, and her voice cracked. He reminded me of my grandma. That's it. That's the whole story. Nobody does something for nothing. I did. They stared at each other. Something shifted in the air between them. Not attraction exactly, but recognition. Like 2 people from different worlds, suddenly realizing they spoke the same language. Prove it, Sebastian said finally. Let me investigate. Let me talk to your neighbors, your co-workers, Investigate all you want. Lorraine crossed her arms. I've got nothing to hide. Fine. He pulled out a business card, slid it across the table. I'm staying at the Belmont. We'll talk tomorrow. Privately. His fingers brushed hers as she took the card. The contact lasted half a second too long. Denise snorted from behind the counter. Boy, you want privacy? You still gotta order something. Despite everything, Alfred smiled. But as the lawyers packed up their briefcases and Sebastian helped his grandfather to his feet, gentle, despite his anger, which told Lorraine more than he probably meant to reveal, she noticed something. Alfred's jacket pocket was unzipped. Inside, barely visible, was a stack of cash. $200 if she had a guess. And she still had no idea where it was going. Sebastian paused at the door, looked back at her. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Don't make me come find you. It wasn't a request. And Lorraine realized with a start that she was actually looking forward to it. Lorraine didn't go to the Belmont at 10 a.m. She couldn't, because at 9:30, Mrs. Olivia from apartment 4B was knocking on her door, crying, saying her insulin prescription had somehow been paid for anonymously, and did Lorraine know anything about it? She didn't, but she was starting to suspect. By the time she arrived at the hotel at 10:47, Sebastian was pacing the lobby like a caged panther. His tie was loosened. He'd been running his hands through his hair. You're late. I had something to deal with. She was still in her uniform. Hadn't had time to change. Let's get this over with. He led her to a private conference room. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A table that could seat 20. And spread across it, surveillance photos. Of her. Lorraine's stomach dropped. You had me followed? I had my grandfather's interactions monitored. Sebastian gestured to the images. For his protection. There she was, walking Alfred home, carrying his groceries, reading to him on a park bench. Every moment of kindness documented like evidence of a crime. You're insane. Maybe. He pulled out another photo. But explain this. It was Alfred, in an alley behind the diner, handing cash to someone Lorraine recognized, Tommy Brennan, the homeless vet who slept near the bus station. I don't. Here. Another photo. Alfred giving money to a woman with 3 kids. And here, an elderly man accepting an envelope. Every Friday. Different people. $200 distributed to whoever needs it most. Lorraine sank into a chair. He's been running an unauthorized charity operation, Sebastian continued. No paperwork. No tax documentation. Just cash handouts based on what? Whoever tugs his heartstrings that week. He's helping people. He's being reckless. Sebastian's control finally cracked. He has Parkinson's, early stage. His doctors say stress accelerates the symptoms. He should be resting, not wandering dangerous neighborhoods, playing Santa Claus. The pain in his voice stopped her cold. You're scared, she said softly. I'm realistic. But he couldn't meet her eyes. He's all I have left. My parents died when I was 12. Car accident. Grandfather raised me, built me, made me into, he gestured at himself, at the expensive suit, the power. This. And you hate it. His head snapped up. What? The person you become. You hate it. Lorraine stood, moved closer. That's why you're so angry at him. Not because he's giving away money. Because he's still the man he's always been, and you're not. The silence stretched. Sebastian's jaw worked. You don't know anything about me. I know you touched his shoulder gently when you helped him up yesterday. I know you picked the care facility closest to your office so you could visit daily. I know you're not half as cold as you pretend. Something in his expression shifted, softened. He has maybe 10 years left, Sebastian said quietly. Less if the Parkinson's progresses. I want them to be safe years. Comfortable. Not spent being human. Not spent being taken advantage of. By people like me. I didn't say, you didn't have to. But Lorraine understood now. You're trying to protect him from the world. But Sebastian, he doesn't want to be protected. He wants to matter. Sebastian stared at her for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He laughed. Actually laughed. He told me you were smart. Wiser than your years, he said. I thought it was the dementia talking. He doesn't have dementia. No. Sebastian pulled out a folder. Medical records. He doesn't. According to 3 independent evaluations I ordered. He's sharp as ever. Which means the will modification stands. Lorraine's heart hammered. I still don't want. $12 million. The number sucked the air from the room. That's the current value of his personal estate. Not counting the family trust or his remaining shares in the company. Just his personal holdings. Sebastian watched her carefully. And he wants to leave 70% of it to you. Lorraine couldn't breathe. The other 30% is divided among various charities. Nothing for me. I don't need it. But $12 million to a woman he met 4 months ago at a diner. Sebastian shook his head. Can you understand why I had to investigate? Yes, she whispered. Can you understand why I'm still not sure this is real? She looked up at him. This hard, broken, brilliant man who loved his grandfather enough to be the villain. What would convince you? Sebastian stepped closer. Close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his dark eyes. Close enough to feel the heat of him. Let me spend the week with you. See what he sees. Understand why a man who built an empire thinks you deserve to inherit it. And if you still don't believe me, then I'll fight the will with everything I have. His voice dropped. But if I'm wrong, if you really are who you appear to be, then what? His eyes dropped to her lips. Just for a second. Then I'll owe you the biggest apology of my life. Before Lorraine could respond, Sebastian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned. It's the care facility. Grandfather never showed up for his tour. Ice flooded Lorraine's veins. What? He left the diner with one of my assistants 3 hours ago. They were supposed to... Sebastian was already moving. Phone to his ear. Where the hell is he? And Lorraine knew with absolute certainty. Something was very, very wrong. They found Sebastian's assistant unconscious in the alley behind Millie's diner. Paramedics said he'd been struck from behind. Wallet's still there. Phone's still there. Alfred was gone. How long? Sebastian's voice was ice over panic. 3 hours, maybe 4, the officer said. We've got units searching, but what? The officer looked uncomfortable. Sir, an elderly man with Parkinson's disoriented in this neighborhood? If he wandered into the wrong area, or if someone realized he had money, he didn't finish. He didn't have to. Lorraine felt her world tilting. He wouldn't just wander off. He knows this neighborhood. You don't know what he'd do. Sebastian rounded on her, fear sharpening into accusation. You've known him 4 months. I've known him my entire life. And when the Parkinson's flares, when he's stressed, he gets confused. He wasn't confused yesterday. Yesterday, before you showed up, he didn't have lawyers threatening to expose his underground charity. He didn't have his grandson accusing the one person who's been kind to him. Sebastian's hand shook. This is my fault. I pushed too hard. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered on speaker. Yes. Mr. Corleone. The voice was distorted. Electronic. We have your grandfather. The world stopped. If you hurt him, he's unharmed. For now. But that $12 million estate he's been so generous with, we want half. Transferred to an account we'll provide within 6 hours. How do I know he's? A sound. Labored breathing. Then Alfred's voice. Weak but unmistakable. Sebastian. Don't. The line went dead. Sebastian stared at the phone like it had bitten him. Then he turned to Lorraine with eyes full of something terrible. Who did you tell? What? About the money. About the will. Who did you tell? The accusation hit like a physical blow. Nobody. I didn't even know about it until. Convenient. His voice could freeze blood. You show up, befriend a vulnerable old man, learn about his wealth, and suddenly he's kidnapped the same day the will becomes public knowledge. Lorraine felt tears sting her eyes. You think I think you're either involved or catastrophically naive. Sebastian was already dialing. Either way, my grandfather is paying the price. Sebastian, please. Detective Morrison, I need to report a kidnapping, and I have a suspect to identify. He was looking right at her. The officers moved closer. Not threatening. Not yet, but ready. You're making a mistake, Lorraine whispered. The mistake was trusting my grandfather's judgment. Sebastian turned away. The mistake was almost trusting you. The dismissal was absolute. Denise appeared at Lorraine's elbow. Come on, baby. Let's get you out of here. I didn't. I know you didn't. But that man's in pain, and pain makes people stupid. She guided Lorraine toward the diner. Let him tear apart the world looking for answers. Meanwhile, we're going to find Alfred ourselves. Ow! Because unlike Mr. Fancy Suit, we actually know this neighborhood. We know where people disappear to. Denise's expression hardened. And we know who asks questions nobody else wants answered. Behind them, Sebastian was coordinating with police, with private security, with people who'd never set foot in this part of town. He'd look in all the right places, which meant he'd never find Alfred, because Lorraine was starting to realize the old man hadn't been taken to anywhere right. He'd been taken somewhere forgotten, somewhere people like Sebastian never saw, somewhere she knew all too well. 6 hours. Alfred's medication wore off in 4. And Lorraine had just been cut off from the one person with the resources to help her. The one person whose eyes she couldn't stop seeing, dark with betrayal, bright with pain, looking at her like she was the monster he'd suspected all along. She should be furious. Instead, her heart was breaking. But there was no time for heartbreak. Only time to prove him wrong. Or lose Alfred forever. Lorraine ran through the streets she'd known her whole life with new eyes. The condemned building on 5th. The abandoned subway in trance everyone pretended didn't exist. The warehouse where Tommy Brennan and the other veterans sheltered when the cold got too bad. Places invisible to people like Sebastian. Places Alfred had seen because he'd chosen to see them. Tommy. She found him huddled under blankets, radio, crackling static. The old man who gives you money on Fridays. Have you seen him? Tommy's eyes went sharp. Combat instincts never fully faded. What happened? Someone took him. They're demanding ransom. I think, she caught her breath. I think it's someone from the neighborhood. Someone who knew about the money because they received it. Tommy stood. Despite the ragged clothes, he moved like the Marine he'd been. How long ago? For hours. Then he's at the Kellerman building. Lorraine's blood froze. That's Vince Kellerman's territory. Exactly. Tommy was already moving, rallying 3 other vets with hand signals. Vince has been watching Alfred for weeks. Ask me about him. I didn't think. Guilt crossed his weathered face. I didn't think he'd actually grab him. We need to call the police. Police show up at Kellerman's. Alfred's dead before they breach the door. Tommy checked his watch. We go quiet. We go now. You with us. Lorraine should run. Should find Sebastian. Should let people train for this handle it. Instead, she thought of Alfred's kind eyes, his gentle stories, the way he treated her like she mattered when the rest of the world looked through her. "I'm with you." 20 minutes later, her phone buzzed. "Sebastian." She almost didn't answer. "If this is to accuse me again." "It's not." His voice was rough, raw. "Lorraine, the detective ran background on everyone at the diner. You're clean. Completely. Not even a parking ticket. I could have told you that." "I know." A pause heavy with regret. "I know, and I'm sorry. I was terrified and I lashed out and He stopped. Started again. Where are you?" "Heading to the Kellerman building." "What?" That's one of the most dangerous." "I know where it is, Sebastian. I used to live 2 blocks from there." Silence. "You didn't run a background check deep enough," she said quietly. "Didn't see that my mom overdosed there when I was 9. That I spent 3 years in foster care before my grandmother got custody. That I know exactly who Vince Kellerman is and what he's capable of. Lorraine, your world and mine, they don't overlap. They never have. That's why you didn't trust me. That's why you never will. That's not. I'm getting Alfred back. Stay with your police and your security team. I'll call you when it's done." She hung up. Tommy gave her an approving nod. "Cole, he deserved it. Maybe. But that man's about to move heaven and earth to get to you." Lorraine's heart twisted. "He just wants his grandfather." "Keep telling yourself that, sweetheart." They approached the Kellerman building from the south. Broken windows like missing teeth. Graffiti covering every surface. The kind of place where screams went unanswered. Tommy held up 3 fingers. 3 guards visible. But Lorraine knew this building. Had played in it as a kid before it got too dangerous. "There's a basement entrance," she whispered. "Tunnel that connects to the old laundry room. If Vince is keeping Alfred here, that's where." A hand clamped over her mouth. She was yanked backward into an iron grip. "Got her, boss." A voice growled into a radio. "No, no." Tommy spun, but 2 more men emerged from the shadows. Ex-military moves, well-coordinated. They've been expected. "Mr. Kellerman wants to meet the famous Lorraine Ripley," her captor said. "The waitress who's about to inherit millions." Lucky girl. They dragged her toward the building. And then chaos. A black SUV crashed through the chain-link fence. Doors flew open. Sebastian emerged like an avenging angel, flanked by 6 private security operators in tactical gear. "Let her go." His voice carried absolute authority. "Now." Kellerman's men hesitated. That's when Tommy and his vet struck. It wasn't a fight. It was a surgical dismantling. Within seconds, Lorraine was free, and Kellerman's guards were on the ground. Sebastian crossed to her in 3 strides. His hands cupped her face, checking for injuries with desperate gentleness. "Are you hurt?" "Did they?" "I'm fine." But she was shaking. "How did you?" "Tracked your phone. Called in every favor I had." His thumb brushed her cheek. "You hung up on me. You accused me of kidnapping. I was an idiot." "Yes. A terrified idiot who's falling for a woman brave enough to run into hell for someone she barely knows." The words hung between them. "Sebastian, after we get grandfather." "I know." But his eyes held a promise. "After." Tommy approached. "Building's got 12 entry points. It says maybe 8 guys inside. Your operators, ex-military. Navy SEALs. Good enough." Tommy grinned. "Let's go get your grandpa." Sebastian looked at Lorraine. Really looked. Seeing not the waitress, not the inheritance hunter, but the woman who'd walked into danger without hesitation. "Together?" he asked. She took his hand. Together. And they moved toward the building where Alfred waited, where Vince Kellerman was about to learn that some people were worth more than money. Some people were worth everything. The basement smelled like rot and fear. Alfred sat in a metal chair, hands bound, but his eyes were clear. Alert. When he saw them, relief flooded his face, followed immediately by terror. "Sebastian, behind you." Sebastian spun as Vince Kellerman emerged from the shadows, gun leveled. Touching reunion. Vince was everything the neighborhood whispered about. Cold eyes, colder smile. A man who'd turned desperation into profit. The billionaire grandson and the saint waitress. My favorite kind of people. Rich. "Let him go," Sebastian said. 6 million. Unmarked accounts. "You've got." Vince checked his watch. 90 minutes. You'll never spend it. Sebastian's voice was deadly calm. Every law enforcement agency in the state is looking for you. But they're not here. Your seal's outside. I've got claymores on every entrance. They breach, we all die. Vince's smile widened. Mutually assured destruction. Capitalism at its finest. Lorraine stepped forward. You know me, Vince. His eyes narrowed. Little Lori Ripley, Clara's daughter. Heard you made something of yourself. My mom used to clean your father's auto shop. Before the drugs. Before you helped supply them. The temperature in the room dropped. Careful, girl. You want to talk money? Let's talk money. Lorraine's voice strengthened. Alfred's been giving cash to people in this neighborhood for months. Mrs. Olivia's insulin. Tommy's radio. Deshawn's kids' school supplies. How much of that money went to your people, Vince? What's your point? My point is you're holding the only person who's given a damn about this neighborhood in 20 years. And when people find out, and they will, you'll have every vet, every mother, every person he's helped coming for you. They're scared of me. They were. Tommy's voice came from the doorway. Behind him, shadows moved. Dozens of them. People Lorraine recognized. Mrs. Olivia, Deshawn, Maria from the bodega. Faces from a lifetime in forgotten streets. Now we're just tired. Vince's gun wavered. You can shoot me, Lorraine continued, but you can't shoot all of us. And Sebastian's already transferred the money. Vince's eyes snapped to Sebastian. What? Sebastian held up his phone. 6 million. To a police-controlled account. They've been tracking this location for the last 10 minutes. The only question is whether you leave here in handcuffs or a body bag. You're bluffing. Am I? Sirens wailed in the distance. Alfred spoke for the first time, his voice steady despite everything. Vince, your father was a good man. He made mistakes, but he tried. You can still. Don't. Vince's mask cracked. Don't give me the redemption speech. I know who I am. Then be someone better, Lorraine said softly. Right now? Choose. The moment stretched. Then Vince lowered the gun. Get him out of here, he said quietly. Just get him out. Sebastian's security moved in. Within seconds, Alfred was free, wrapped in a blanket, Sebastian's arms around him like he'd never let go. You came, Alfred whispered. Always, grandfather. Always. But Sebastian was looking at Lorraine, and she saw everything in his eyes, gratitude, wonder, something that might become love if given the chance. Police flooded in. Vince didn't resist. As they let him past Lorraine, he stopped. Your mom would be proud. You became everything she wanted to be. Tears stung her eyes. She tried. I know. Something human flickered in his expression. I'm sorry I didn't help her. Then he was gone. Alfred reached for Lorraine's hand. You saved my life. We saved each other. She looked at Sebastian. All of us. And Sebastian Corleone, heir to billions, master of boardrooms, man who trusted nothing, took her other hand and held on like she was the only real thing in his world. The will, Alfred said, exhausted but smiling, still stands. Everything I said. We'll talk about it later, Lorraine interrupted. Right now, let's just go home. Where's home? Sebastian asked her. It was a bigger question than geography. Lorraine smiled. Wherever we choose it to be. 6 months later, Lorraine still worked at Millie's diner. But now she owned it. The first thing she'd done with Alfred's inheritance, after a month of lawyers, tears, and insisting she couldn't possibly accept, was buy the place for Millie's retiring owner. The second thing was give everyone a raise. The third was start a community fund. Every Friday, people still lined up, not for handouts, but for opportunities, job training, small business loans, rent assistance with dignity attached. Alfred called it justice. Sebastian called it beautiful. Lorraine called it Friday. Table 7's waiting for you. Denise called, grinning like she knew secrets. Lorraine wiped her hands and headed over. Sebastian sat in Alfred's old spot. Laptop closed for once, tie loosened. He'd been doing that lately, leaving the office early, choosing her world over his. Slumming it again, Mr. Corleone, she teased. Always. He caught her hand, pulled her into the booth beside him. Grandfather wants to know if you're coming to dinner Sunday. He asks me every week. And every week I hold my breath, hoping you'll say yes. She had said yes, of course. Had been saying yes to Sunday dinners for 3 months now. Watching Sebastian and Alfred cook together, hearing stories about Dorothy, feeling herself become part of something she'd never expected. Family. There's something else, Sebastian said. His voice carried nerve she rarely heard. Grandfather's stepping back from the foundation board. He wants you to take his seat. Sebastian, before you say you're not qualified, he's already printed business cards. And the other board members are terrified of him. So they agreed. Lorraine laughed. You're serious. I'm serious about a lot of things lately. His thumb traced circles on her palm. Like the fact that I'm in love with a woman who hung up on me, ran into a hostage situation, and somehow made me believe in goodness again. Her breath caught. Like the fact that I bought the apartment above yours. Just in case you ever want a neighbor who makes terrible coffee and works too much, but is trying to be better. Sebastian, like the fact that I want to build something with you. Not companies or empires. Just a life. If you'll have me. Lorraine looked at this man who'd accused her, doubted her, then stood beside her when it mattered most. Who'd learned to see the world through her eyes. Who'd become someone even his grandfather was proud of again. Your coffee really is terrible, she whispered. Is that a yes? I'll teach you how to make better coffee. I'll take it. He kissed her then, soft and sure, tasting like hope. The diner erupted in applause. Denise whistled. About damn time. Through the window, Lorraine saw Alfred walking toward them, Tommy beside him, both men laughing about something. The old man's tremor was more pronounced now, but his smile was brighter than ever. He caught her eye and nodded. Thank you, the gesture said, for seeing me, for saving us both. Lorraine nodded back, because that's what kindness did. It didn't just change one life. It changed everything. Sebastian's hand found hers under the table, squeezed gently. Ready to change the world, Miss Ripley? She looked at the diner, her diner, at the community outside, at the man beside her who'd learned that wealth wasn't measured in dollars, but in moments like this. I've been ready my whole life, Mr. Corleone. And together they began. Thank you so much for reading this story. If it touched your heart, drop a comment below telling me your favorite moment. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button because we've got more incredible stories coming your way.